Okay, we've got to talk about this bombshell information from Jon Stewart, friend of the channel and former guest. Well, he appeared on Redacted recently and was talking about this amazing crash retrieval, UFO crash retrieval firefight between Lockheed-Martin and JSOC. This is insane. So let's talk about it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I'll talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think. Okay, let's just get right into it. So it turns out that for decades, Lockheed Martin has had their own, reverse engineering, UFO reverse engineering program. And it turns out that they actually developed their own UFO. Now, of course, anybody that's been following UFO stuff probably is familiar with the stories about private companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and Boeing, etc., having their own ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, etc. So, the idea of private companies having this technology isn't new, but now we have a crazy story about a firefight between recovery teams because one of these craft, one of Lockheed Martin's craft, actually crashed in JSOC. Some military people showed up and a firefight broke out. But let's let Jon explain it in his own words.
It's even crazier. He says that in 2004, a Lockheed ARV, a alien reproduction vehicle, was flying in South Nevada. I will not give the small town, and it crashed. But this craft was being tracked by JSOC because JSOC thought it was actually an interplanetary or interdimensional extraterrestrial craft. I hope you're following me.
Right,
so
right. They thought this was an off-world vehicle. JSOC did.
Right, because JSOC and most of the government have not been briefed in that Lockheed has successfully reproduced to an advanced degree replica extraterrestrial craft. In the 60s and the 70s, they developed something like a flux liner. It was a very basic alien reproduction vehicle. They made the leap, they made the jump, and I will not say how this happened. They made the leap and made the jump, kept this from the government. So when the government is tracking this Lockheed reproduction craft in 2004, they think it's an alien craft. It crashes, again, this is his story, not my investigation, folks. It crashes in southern Nevada. JSOC, a JSOC recovery team and a Lockheed recovery team descend on this crash at the same time. Now, I'm assuming JSOC probably doesn't have military insignia because they're a covert military operation. Obviously, Lockheed didn't have military insignia. And Lockheed and JSOC, from this, what this whistleblower says, start a firefight because JSOC thinks it's terrorists. Lockheed thinks it's, whoever. They have to protect Lockheed's craft, and a firefight ensues. It gets even crazier. This whistleblower claims that two JSOC airmen, two JSOC members, two JSOC soldiers, however you call them, I'm not a military person, were actually killed in this firefight. He went on to say that he remembered their names, and that they were of Asian descent.
Okay, so there's a lot to break down there. That's an insane story shared by Jon Stewart's contacts. He, I think, developed a lot of contacts in his pursuit of the truth about the alien interview. And I'm assuming that's how he developed these sources. And, hopefully I can get him on the channel and he can explain that a little better. And then he had this story confirmed by another of his sources. So in summary, Lockheed Martin had their own UFO. It crashed. They had their own retrieval team standing by to retrieve it. And presumably they have a retrieval team in place, not just to retrieve their own craft, but also other, non-human craft, I would assume. The military or the government thought that it was ET, and they came in, as they do, to retrieve a downed UFO. But Firefight broke out, and 2 JSOC people ended up passing away, were killed rather. And if you're not familiar with JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, Joint Component Command of the United States Special Operations Command, and is charged with studying special operations requirements and techniques to ensure interoperability and equipment standardization to plan and conduct special operations exercises and training, to develop joint special operations tactics, and to execute special operations missions worldwide. It was established in 1980 on recommendation of Colonel Charlie Beckwith in the aftermath of the failure of Operation Eagle Claw. So the joint headquarters designed to study special operations requirements and techniques. Yeah, well, apparently they have a real special operation, don't they? And yeah, so this is really interesting. So John doesn't say or can't say how Lockheed Martin arrived at this technology. If, you know, they have their own functioning UFO, that seems to imply they have successfully reverse engineered ET technology, which is amazing. I mean, hats off to these guys if they have actually successfully reverse engineered ET technology, because, you know, people have compared that, you know, caveman finding a cell phone. What's he going to do with that? So did a caveman actually reverse engineer a cell phone? Maybe he did. I don't know. Were they helped along in this endeavor by, you know, the control group or by ETs possibly? Because the control group seems like they were interacting with the beings for a long time. And there are multiple Lockheed Martin whistleblowers that have said that indeed Skunkworks way back in the 60s and maybe even late 50s were working with the beings. Now, they were also working with the government. It's really interesting that the government wouldn't be aware of Lockheed Martin's own vehicles. And I find that really interesting. I think maybe that's John has been told, or John's conclusion. I'm not sure about that. It seems, it's interesting because I've talked before about on the channel about the possible conflict between the private aspects of the UFO control group and the government aspects of the UFO control group. And, you know, the Schumer-Rounds Amendment really made me think about that with its original focus on, you know, eminent domain, about seizing possible vehicles from places like Lockheed Martin. And, you know, that was killed by, you know, Congress people under the sway of these big aerospace companies. So that, you know, is a possible example of the conflict between the government control group and the private UFO control group. The private companies don't want to be raided and have their UFOs taken away, even though we have heard from Ross Coulthart that Lockheed Martin is trying to divest themselves of a UFO, which is interesting. But of course, it makes sense since they've got their own UFOs. They don't need this ET technology anymore because they've already cracked it. They've already reverse engineered it or been given this technology. From multiple videos I've done talking about Lockheed Martin whistleblowers that say they were working with the beings back in the day, I'm inclined to think they didn't reverse engineer this, that they were given this technology. But I am very puzzled about the interaction between the private aspects of the UFO control group and the government aspects. I have long suspected there is probably some sort of conflict between those different aspects of the control group. I never thought they would actually engage in a firefight over it, though. Corruption, battling over Congress, sure, but actually shooting at each other, wow. Of course, that seems to have been an accident. That does not seem to have been something they set out to do. The JSOC, we're going to take this UFO away from Lockheed Martin and we're going to bring our guns. They seem like they were trying to recover a downed craft, ET. So anyway, but just a super fascinating story. I want more details. I want to know everything about this incident. This is a crazy story, and I love it. But it just raises so many questions. If this information is authentic, what does it mean? Is it possible that John was given some disinformation? Or maybe some disinformation sprinkled among real information. Like one of the pieces of information that he received was that the 2 deaths on the JSOC team, that's what David Grush was talking about when he talked about people losing their lives over the cover-up. So I don't believe that's what David Grush was talking about. There are so many stories from so many witnesses talking about the Men in Black threatening people and taking people out. So I assume and believe that's what David Grush was talking about, not this particular incident. Although that could have been part of it. So could John have been given a real story with just a little untruth in it? Because that's the part they wanted us to focus on. That, you know, maybe, you know, they're not running around killing people to silence us, but they're giving us this nugget, this genuine story, you know, so that we can swallow that disinfo. Just an idea I have. I mean, maybe the information is 100% on the level. I just don't know, and I'm hoping to get John on the show to talk about it. So we'll see if we can make that happen. I'm sure John has probably got lots of offers from people wanting to talk about this. So and he should, because this is a gangbusters story, and it's just incredible to imagine the implications of this and the possibilities of all of this. Private companies having their own UFOs, and in some cases fighting with the government over this technology. So what other companies have UFOs, right? The interview I did with Nico seems to indicate that Raytheon has their own UFOs. Although in his case, I think that what he saw was a genuine anomalous vehicle. But the information that he was given was that Raytheon does indeed have their own reverse engineered ET tech. So Raytheon's got it, Lockheed-Martin's got it, Boeing almost certainly has it. Who else has it? What is the interaction between those companies? Are there, you know, industrial espionage, you know, among those companies trying to get each other's ET tech? Does the government have spies among the private companies trying to get this stuff? Does China have spies? Does Russia have spies among Raytheon and Lockheed Martin to try to get this tech? Because you know that stuff is going on, guys. You know that stuff is going on. So, yeah, let me know what you think. And if the government didn't know about Lockheed Martin's ship, then what else don't they know? Why didn't they know? I'm really puzzled by that. Did Lockheed Martin keep that secret from them intentionally? It seems like they did. And if they did, then what were they doing with that ship that needed such secrecy? What was Lockheed Martin doing with their UFO? I mean, do you have any clue? I mean, Lockheed Martin is a successful business. They don't, you know, was it a private plane for the elites of the company? I don't think so. It seems like they would be doing something intentional with that, something very specific with that craft. And if they have one craft, they probably have multiple craft. But, you know, those are just my thoughts. At this point, it's all speculation. But again, a Gangbusters interview with Jon Stewart on Redacted. And yeah, let me know what you think of this crazy story and what are your thoughts on the implications of all this and where does it go from here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure appreciate it. Smash the like button and the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. There's plenty of other videos on the channel. And I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.